Hello. This is the not particularly anticipated, except by me, follow-up to my other video about traveling with a cat from Russia to the States and from the States back to Russia. This one I have cheekily titled Cats on a Plane because I'm going to be talking about my experience with my cat on the plane. I'm just gonna come right out and answer the question that literally everybody wants to know the answer to if they're gonna do this and they've never done it before. Did he pee in his carrier at any point during any of the flights that he's ever been on? And the answer to that question is no. No, he did not. He did not. No. And the reason for that is because our vet had suggested that he kind of fast for 12 hours before the flight. So he, 12 hours before the flight, had not had anything to eat, and 10 hours before the flight had not had anything to drink. So he was a completely empty tank. He did not need to go to the bathroom. The other sort of reason, I guess, why vets suggest this is because he was just sort of lethargic and sleepy and didn't really have a lot of energy to be freaked out by anything that happened to him. So he was very, very calm the entire time. And there were some shenanigans involved in some of these flights that, had he perhaps had something to eat or perhaps had a little bit more energy, would have really been stressful for him. So even though I had my reservations about him fasting before this flight, in the end, I think it was for the best because I had such a better experience, and I think so did he, than otherwise would have happened. So I want to talk about a couple of particular incidents that occurred with my cat on several of the flights that he and I have taken together. The original time that we ever flew anywhere in Sakhalin, which is an island in the far eastern part of Russia, it was a very positive experience. I had all my travel documents. See the other video if you want to know about that. And it was like really great. And we traveled from Sakhalin to Seoul, South Korea with absolutely no problems. When we arrived in Seoul, that was when some like interesting things started to happen. First of all, the flight was delayed significantly by about 6 hours. Now for the shenanigans, because you know, the flight getting delayed, that's nobody's fault. That just happens. You know, you just kind of have to deal with things like this. I knew from my experience in the Chicago airport that some airports have pet rest areas, and I don't know, I just thought like, well, I'll just ask and see if they do here. So I went up to one of the women who worked for the airport and I just asked her. She made the suggestion that if he had to pee, I go to the human bathroom and like hold him over the toilet. She wanted me to hold him like this over the toilet, and I wasn't sure what she was expecting to happen. What? Like, this wasn't like, I wasn't upset about this. It was just weird. I was just thinking, like, clearly you don't have any pets, lady, because what did you think he was gonna do? So anyway, that was just kind of funny. Well, then it got weird again. So this was actually something that was concerning to me. And if you are traveling with your pet, whether it's a cat, dog, whatever, on the plane, you need to be vigilant, because and I'm not going to name which airline this was because I genuinely don't think that this is their like standard idea of how to handle this situation. But we got on the plane, and basically the rule for traveling with a pet on the plane is the carrier has to fit under the seat. The carrier that I had fit under the seat, and not only did it fit under the seat, but it had this piece of Velcro attached to the bottom so that it would like attach basically to the floor, which was horrible for getting it under and out from under the seat. But once it was there, it did not move. Like, it was fastened to the floor. We had been on the flight for roughly, I don't know, like maybe 30 minutes or so up in the air, and my cat was asleep. I was kind of just like hanging out on the plane, and the stewardess came by, and I don't know what was going on in her mind, but she basically looked at the fact that I had this carrier under my seat, and she told me that because we were going to be experiencing turbulence, that I needed to put it and my cat in the luggage rack. As you can imagine, like as a pet owner, as a person traveling with a child, like, can you imagine if somebody told you to put your like toddler in the luggage rack? And I just thought, no, that can't, she doesn't know that this is my cat. So I was like, well, this is an animal. This is not like a piece of luggage. and also it's adhered to the floor with this Velcro. And she was just like, I'm sorry, but like you have to do this. Like this is like what's happening when there's turbulence. You can't have this kind of thing that's going to be like moving around. And I was like, girl, I am not putting my cat in the luggage rack. I am so sorry. And I even cited, I was like, I am pretty darn sure that people's pets have died when they were put in that luggage rack, because it is not designed for living creatures to be inside it. You close it, there's no air. She ended up getting somebody else to come and talk to me. And then that other person, when I explained it was my cat, which apparently she did not specify that. She basically just told this person, I think, oh, this passenger is being very belligerent and won't like put their luggage on the luggage rack. But once the guy realized it was a cat, he kind of looked at her like, girl, are you insane? So that was more or less the end of that. But stay vigilant, because people sometimes are crazy. I don't know. Another kind of weird, like just bizarre experience with a person who clearly has never had a pet in their life, or is just, I don't know, just not very thoughtful, was when we got to the airport in Switzerland when I was flying back from the States to Moscow. We had a layover in Zurich. I was very, very used to, at this point, taking my cat out of the carrier, putting the carrier through the x-ray machine and carrying him with me through the gate. Like that had never been an issue. Nobody had ever said anything to me about that. That was like the way that it worked. I got to the security line. I had already announced to the people ahead of time that I had this cat. And so I was basically like, got myself off to the side so that I could get him out of the carrier into my arms, put the carrier on the conveyor belt and go through. And this security guard who was working at the security checkpoint, he told me to stop what I was doing and just put the whole thing through the x-ray machine with my cat in the carrier. So again, I gave him the benefit of the doubt and I was like, listen, this is not luggage, this is my cat. Like I'm traveling with my cat. I need to take him out and carry him with me. And he, again, like similarly to the woman on the flight, put up this weird like thing about it and was just like, no, like we don't have time. Like I just need you to put the whole thing through the machine. It's fine. And I just kind of was thinking like, oh my God, I don't really need this kind of conflict in my life, but I'm not putting my cat through an x-ray scanner. So I just said no and like proceeded to unzip the thing, pull the cat out and walk through the gate. And that was kind of the end of that. But I just could not believe that there would be a person on the face of the earth who works in security who would find that acceptable. Stay vigilant. To end the whole thing on a sort of more positive note, there was one kind of funny thing that happened on my flight, that flight actually, from Zurich to Moscow. The people that sat down next to me, I'm guessing they must have been told in advance that that they were going to be in a row with an animal, because otherwise, you know, allergies, like they have to have been informed, I'm sure. But this girl who was sitting next to me was not happy about it at all. Like she clearly was not either a cat person or an animal person or I don't know what. Anyway, so like I was trying like my best to be like incredibly courteous to these people in any other way I could, because I knew she was so unhappy to be next to my cat, even though, to be fair, like he was not loud. He basically was just sleeping. Well, anyway, at one point I kind of finally nodded off. I was awakened by this girl next to me kind of like nudging me, and I kind of woke up and I looked over and she was holding my cat, and he was looking at me and she was looking at me, and she said, "Your cat." And I was just like, oh. So I took him and I put him back in the carrier. I have no idea how he got out. He must have just been sitting in there like awake, working the zipper or something. So be careful when you choose your carriers. If they have one of those little locks, maybe you need one, because my cat Houdini'd his way out of the carrier and luckily didn't get any further than the girl sitting next to me, but still, like, and luckily, as I said, she was nice about it, considering that I knew she was not happy about sitting next to a cat. So yeah, those were my sort of cat on a plane stories. And hopefully that was like interesting, a little informative, but gives you a sense of like what can go well and can kind of go a little astray when you're in this situation. So I'll say it again for the third time, just stay vigilant, because I really was astonished by the two incidences, especially in Zurich and in Seoul, of these people and their just like lack of, I don't even know what, it's not even empathy. I think it was just a lack of common sense, honestly. All right, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.